everyone, and welcome to a new episode of We Saw the Devil. Today is June 11th, 2020, and joining me is Jackie.
Hello, everyone.
And this is an unfortunate week to join us, Jackie.
Grave findings.
Yeah, it's been a terrible week. I think that most of us have shed a few tears, and there has been a lot going on. We did release a quick 9-minute episode on Tuesday when everything started happening that afternoon, kind of giving the rundown. So basically, today's episode is going to be what has transpired over the last 3 days. Let's start off. Well, also officially, we are now 41 days from the apocalypse. If you do recall, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell believed that the apocalypse would happen on July 22nd. We are officially 41 days away.
And the countdown begins.
But before we get into that, guys, don't forget to check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/We Saw the Devil. You can support the show for as little as $3 a month. And with that, you can get access to our private Patreon page, which is freaking amazing. Everyone talks and comes together and web sleuths and keeps up to date, and it's amazing. Also, you can get merch like t-shirts, stickers, and shout outs, and also postcards, handwritten postcards from whatever city we are doing and taking on as a case for that month.
Million surprises.
And random surprises.
We love surprises.
And I would like to also take a moment. So I decided this week to send our top tier books as a surprise out of nowhere. Like, you know what, guys? Congratulations. Here's a random gift. And I decided to Amazon Prime it without telling anyone as a gift. And a whole bunch of people.
They thought it was anthrax or bombs, death threats. I mean, some people have some interesting backstories, I'm going to tell you. But hey, we still love you anyway.
So if you're interested in getting scared by a random Amazon Prime package sitting on your doorstep, maybe this would interest you as well. Definitely check us out there. You can also find us at Facebook as We Saw the Devil. Same with Twitter, We Saw the Devil. Website, WeSawTheDevil.com. And Instagram is We Saw the Devil Podcast. We're just going to go ahead and start with Tuesday and give a more fleshed out, detailed version of the events that have transpired so far. So Tuesday morning, as I said in our last episode, I actually got a text message from a family member saying, hey, just so you know, what's going on is going to appear like a search, and it is not a search. It is actually for the children. And sure enough, a couple hours later, people started posting in all the Facebook groups, there are cars approaching Chad's, they have roadblocks, things are crazy. And then, yes, it was determined that this was a search. So around 7 a.m., Rexburg police and FBI arrived at Chad Daybell's home in Salem, Idaho. Soon after that, and we mean like minutes later, Nate Eaton was in a helicopter headed towards the scene. I had to laugh. All of you listeners know Emma Daybell, Chad Daybell's daughter, has been just terrible to media. And my heart goes out to her. I can't imagine being in her shoes. But her husband has been very, very vocal on the Release Lori Vallow page and also comment sections, typically and usually of Nate Eaton's reporting.
She's the snarky one that was flipping off the cameras, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone remembers that. So Nate Eaton was headed there in the helicopter, and Joseph Murray was in the chat, and he was like, you're reporting, you're whatever is as trash as you're reporting. And Nate Eaton looks down and he's like, don't worry, Joseph, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll be at the house in 5 minutes. And I had to laugh.
That's a win right there.
That is a win, Nate Eaton. Yeah, good job with Nate Eaton with the helicopter coverage. He went to the scene, and we saw the blue canopies, the tarps. We saw the canine dogs come out, and then eventually, probably about like an hour or so later, the backhoe arrived. So we knew at that point that this is going to be a full-scale excavation. So, and guys, don't forget that this is the second search of Chad Daybell's home. The first one happened back in January. There's a lot of speculation as far as why they didn't search the yard back in January, and I believe the answer to that is snow and the ground being too frozen.
Probable cause, too. They have to have it. Don't they, to search for a body?
To excavate and tear up your yard, they do have to have some sort of probable cause. So the first search that happened back in January primarily took electronics and writings and things of that nature. So that is why. Now let's talk about why they picked this particular area in his yard, because that's what a lot of people are speculating over right now. How did they know where to dig? As you saw from the aerials, his property is pretty large.
A lot of homes around there that have a lot of property and acreage. It's weird.
Yeah, and then behind Chad is, cows in a field. They have a pasture. So how did people seemingly know where to go or what area to concentrate on? People are saying, it had to be based on a tip. Maybe Lori gave it up. I'm saying that Lori is unlikely. I cannot fathom at this point, with everything that has gone on, that Lori would fold just yet.
I don't think she could even give up cheap pharmacy makeup. I mean, I don't see her giving up information, really. It's interesting because when you think about Lori, right, and her behavior and how snarky she was in court and stuff, I just don't think that she's on board with giving anything up.
I don't either. And then we have, Melanie Pulowski, Ian Pulowski, Melanie Gibb, a neighbor. I just can't determine who or if this is based on a tip. I don't think so, though. I think that we know all the major players. We know potentially how most of them are involved, or kind of the interaction, the dynamics between the people in the group. Maybe a neighbor. There has been confirmation that a local neighbor, multiple neighbors, have seen bonfires coming out of his home in the last couple months, basically fall and spring, early spring.
How sad and disturbing.
Isn't it, though?
It's let's have a backyard barbecue over some... Yeah.
There's also the option of satellite technologies and different types of geophysical equipment. As everyone knows, and I'm sure that you've seen in a few of the Facebook groups, people are getting on their phones. Say if you have an iPhone, you have, the map functions for iPhones, and they have their own satellite images that they can show you. And then you have Google Earth, you have Google Maps, you have all different types of imagery that is taken by satellites just at random, right? So people have shown and posted various photos of aerial shots of Chad Daybell's yard, and you can actually see it and how it evolves. And unfortunately, there is no date on some of them, but one clearly shows Chad Daybell's yard, being green and whatnot, and then the next, half of it is torn up.
Ooh.
So really interesting stuff there. But guys, don't forget, Lori didn't have to give up the jig here, that it could have just been the simple technology. Technology solves a lot. So... before we go down the rabbit hole of who flipped, let's also consider the fact that technology exists.
Also observation, right? Just because you have a search warrant on your property, to not dig up in someone's yard doesn't mean that you can't see anything observable about what's happening.
Exactly.
Or what has happened in the past. Ground tells a lot of history and stories that people don't usually realize.
It's very true. Mm-hmm. Now, there are multiple different options that law enforcement could have used. So one is called LiDAR, and that is used from a helicopter or drone, typically to discover unmarked graves. So because it was so big, especially in the 80s and 90s, that people say Ted Bundy's, right? They would drive into the middle of nowhere and dump the bodies in a shallow grave. LiDAR actually maps terrain. Basically what the LiDAR does is, say a body is buried, right? It takes up a certain amount of room beneath the ground. As the body decays, it takes up less room, and then it causes the dirt above it to settle. And this is all done underground, so you can't see it from the top. And maybe you might see a very, very slight depression, So say, for example, a body is buried, it's been buried for a little while, it's thoroughly decaying, and you may walk by the site and see, okay, well, a little bit of settling occurred there, but you won't be able to see it. Well, the LiDAR would actually see it. It basically picks up on the discrepancies in the surface and the ground.
Because no matter what, you're always going to have processes that are taking place on planet Earth that cause weathering and stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you have loose sediment, it's going to compact over time regardless. And you're going to have certain type of rocks and stuff that are going to harden. And it's interesting because no matter what, water wants to go through it because gravity works.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So as that becomes more compacted, then you see the compressions. LiDAR basically picks up on the discrepancies of, hey, something large was buried underground and there's a discrepancy in dirt in the ground. That is one method. The other method is ground penetrating radar. And what I found really, really interesting is I found an article on a gentleman who's used the ground penetrating radar. And what he does, he has one. He's attached it to a baby stroller. With this technology, you actually have to use it on the ground and roll it, push it basically over the ground that you wanted to analyze.
Yeah, they use it for a lot of surveying techniques.
Exactly.
A lot of engineers use it and stuff too to find ground wires, gas lines, et cetera, which are kind of hard to discern from sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And this guy he works at a cemetery, and he has actually used it to find lost graves. So he bought the GPR to basically discover lost graves and in a cemetery, and he started traveling the country because a lot of cemeteries have been here for hundreds of years, right? gravestones get knocked over, or they say they never existed to begin with. And
Or
so
it's a money-making industry and they double bury, or
You
they're not
got it.
actually burying people.
which I actually had a friend who worked at a funeral home, and he left because they actually got busted, the owners, for double burying and even not burying, cremating and charging for casket.
They actually found a cemetery guilty of the same thing in Phoenix a few years back, and it was a huge deal when it broke ground. And they're like, "What?"
And this guy, it's a Washington Post article, and he did the same thing. And so basically, he worked at a cemetery, and it started getting trashed by needles and dog poop and different things, right? So he got the GPR, and he started going over the ground. And not only were they able to say clean up, buried trash and needles and whatever else, but he actually discovered over 300 unmarked graves in the cemetery. And then now he travels the countries doing basically the same service for other historical cemeteries. And to date, he's discovered over 2,400 unmarked graves. So that is also another possibility. If any of you have seen the aerial shots of this, Jackie and I were both like poring over the aerial shots.
Yeah.
The depth of one particular site that they were digging didn't seem to be that deep.
No, it only seemed to be about 3 feet. I mean, but max maybe like 4 to 5. It seemed rather shallow, unfortunately. Have to give it to law enforcement, though. They were pretty precise.
They were very precise.
So the concept of the ground penetrating radar is just that. It's radar. So it sends out a signal that bounces back, like a radiomagnetic signal that bounces back, and it shows contrast. It's easier to detect something that like remains or anything underground that you're looking for. So the example that I watched in a video explains it like this, is that if there's a PVC pipe, a tiny, because PVC is kind of like a type of plastic that's dry, in sand that's dry, it's going to be hard to detect. But if there's a moisture to dry content, it's easier to pick up. So the change in matter and the ability for it to be electrically charged helps find it. So like water becomes electrically charged, so moisture is easier to pick up because of how the radio signals kind of like bounce off of it. So it's very interesting. I feel like as we're exploring what has happened through the sadness of the discovery of the bodies and leading up to it, it feels like I've always been learning something, and I feel like a lot of people can share that a lot of this has been a lot of learning for everyone.
No, it absolutely has. And I've gone down the rabbit hole. I think everyone has currently, and learned about new technology and new things, excavation, removal, and things like that. So I'm
not a construction worker. I know a lot of you out there are not construction workers. And if you are, good for you. I didn't even know what a little digger thing is called. So, hey.
But yeah, so the thing about the ground penetrating radar is that you actually, as we said, you have to walk it over each piece of land. And basically there's a screen and you'll see squiggles. The more squiggles you have, to put it lightly, the more likely it is that there's some sort of random burial underground. All right. So just want to put out there that there is potentially a technological element to this. So that was Tuesday morning. Around 11:30 a.m., Chad was taken into custody about a mile away from his home. And bless you people in the Christmas Misery group, multiple people were driving by at random, I guess, scoping out the house when it happened. And a few of them actually got it on video of him, being handcuffed and walked to the police cruiser. His vehicle was towed away. And Chad had left the house, right? So the FBI and the police come digging. Chad gets in his car, drives away, and he's immediately arrested about a mile down the road. So he was booked into the Fremont County Jail around 5:21 p.m. He was arrested for destruction or concealment of evidence. And you can see the warrant of arrest. Justin Lom, East Idaho News, pretty much everyone has posted it at this point. And it says, to any sheriff, constable, marshal, or policeman in the state of Idaho, complaint. Upon oath, having been laid before me by Lieutenant Ron Ball of the Rexburg Police Department, charging the above defendant with the following crimes. And there are 2 counts on this. Count 1, destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, a felony and violation of Idaho Code, so on and so forth. And he has 2 of those. 2 counts of destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence. Not good, guys.
No.
So on that day, after he was booked into the Fremont County Jail, his mugshot was eventually released. And one of the top questions that I've been seeing is, Why isn't Chad in Madison County with Lori? Do you want to answer that, Jackie?
Yeah, so when we were in Rexburg, as you're driving towards Chad's house, you see a sign that says Fremont County. Welcome to Fremont County. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, it indicates, it's a sign that indicates you're entering a new county.
Yep. So during their search, it came out that 2 sets of human remains were located on the property, and they were not identified immediately. Initially, news came out that one set of remains was JJ. Various people confirmed it. Their posts were removed, and it was just absolutely insane. For just stating the record, so later that night, the evening of Tuesday the 9th, there was a report from ABC4, and it included an interview with Mayor Jerry Merrill. And he told the reporter that the children were found on Chad Daybell's property, and then the reporter named JJ and Tylee. The mayor comes on for his press conference and says, quote, "It's a sad day for Rexburg. You know, of course, to find the news about the kids. But on the other hand, it's a good day in a sense that it's good to try to bring some closure to the family and to the story." The reporter asks, as it cuts away, "Are you indicating that they found the kids?" And the mayor's only response was, "Oh."
You know, I actually saw I get news notifications constantly on my phone. I actually saw the notification for the mayor saying that, like, as the headline.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a moment. That's language indicating that he knows. It was crazy. It was so shocking. I was like, what? Are they actually confirming it? That's insane.
And it's been batted around back and forth, you know, with some people saying, yes, that's been confirmed. Some people know. And it's crazy. So as of Tuesday the 9th in the evening, it had not been confirmed at that point. Also that evening, there was a press conference streamed live via East Idaho News. And it was just a very short recap of the events of the day. Now, this is information that we found out also Tuesday afternoon as all of this was happening. And I held on to it. I didn't include it in our Tuesday a mini update because at that point, our source said, no, please, this is kind of on the down low. But apparently, that source has been outed and the information has been provided.
And we didn't do it.
We didn't do it. And there's proof we didn't do this. So what is believed to be the probable cause that allowed this search warrant to be executed is that Chad, towards the middle of October, sent Tammy, because remember, Tammy was still alive at this point, sent Tammy a text message one evening and said that he had killed a very large raccoon and needed to bury it in the backyard. And that was apparently used as probable cause. Also because Chad's neighbors said that he's recently had a series of bonfires from fall to early spring on his property. And they said that that was, quote, very out of character for him. And then, multiple articles have come out recently as far as his neighbors saying that he was acting weird and so forth. But from our source on the ground, it appears that likely it was a text message that was used as the backbone for the probable cause. So can you imagine like dicking yourself over a text message? Like if let's just say speculate, right, for a moment, that I had just killed my mistress's children. I can't imagine coming home and being like, honey, I just killed a real big raccoon and I need to go bury it in the backyard. Like, I don't know if that just shows Chad's narcissism in play. Because, I need to go bury something in the backyard isn't exactly the verbiage that I would use on text.
Well, here's the thing, right? What if there was a raccoon?
What if
there was actually a raccoon and they're just like, we're looking for anything to just try and find the children?
That is true. There very well could be a large raccoon carcass in the backyard.
I heard Idaho does have a lot of raccoons. Is that true?
I don't know.
Can someone confirm that? He probably, more than likely, he backed himself in a corner.
Yeah.
And it just kind of revealed around the time when he decided that he was going to bury them.
Yeah, that's what I think, to be honest. And don't forget that Tammy was still alive at this point, but this text message did come in October, right before she died. Either way, we know most likely that both kids were dead at that point. And Tammy hadn't died yet, so it's very suspicious happening.
Didn't she go to buy pumpkins from him?
She did. So in a really great article, one of his neighbors talks about how he missed a lot of weird behavior, specifically the bonfires on his part. He said that he sells pumpkins. And so every year, Chad and Tammy come to his home and buy pumpkins for Halloween. And he said that this year, he said that Chad's a great guy, outgoing, extroverted, talks to his friends. And he said that this time that Chad and Tammy came in, Tammy was warm and nice as usual, and Chad was silent, did not talk, and would not look him in the eye. That he was just very, very, very weird, not making eye contact. So let's move on to yesterday, June 10th. So yesterday morning, Chad Daybell had a hearing. It was done remotely and it was streamed. And everyone I know watched it live.
Even me.
So Chad Daybell's attorney is John Pryor of John Pryor Law. And his website looks like it's straight from GeoCities.
Oh my God.
And because, guys, we're in 2020, everything is hitting the fan. Nothing is off the table. Chad's lawyer has a freaking criminal record himself.
Oh my God.
Okay, so John Pryor has his own law office, and a 20-year-old woman went into his office and basically asked for a job as well as counsel on a custody case that she was about to go through.
It's kind of normal to ask for a job at some point. Someone comes in your job where you work in your business asking for a job.
And she's a young woman too, she's a single mother apparently going in for a custody dispute, and she really needed money and a job, and so she asked for a job. So John Pryor allegedly attacked and tried to rape her in the conference room. Nothing happened. Apparently, she got out of there. However, he was indicted by a grand jury for felony battery with intent to commit rape. And initially, he was facing 20 years in prison. That was the maximum sentence. Now, she claims that she just came in, asked for a job, was above board, and he just tried to attack her right there. John Pryor says, "No, man, that didn't happen. I was just trying to pay her for sex."
Oh, okay.
The attorney was like, "No, I was just trying to pay her for sex and, exchange." Like, what? So, yeah. So this went to trial, and he took a plea mid-trial. So we actually got into the trial. Mid-trial, he ended up taking a plea that included 120 days in jail, 100 of those suspended, and then 30 days discretionary. He was also only fined $137.
And 50 cents.
And 50 cents. Chad has now picked an attorney who couldn't even get himself out of the very thing that he claims to represent, like to fight against as an attorney.
If that doesn't tell you how good Chad's case is going, if that's the only attorney he could find.
Right. So, yeah, good stuff there. He picked an outstanding citizen to take over his case.
How did the bar not take his license away?
To be honest with you, I didn't terribly deep dive on his lawyer. I just, with everything going on and the kids, he just seemed kind of like the least interesting player at the moment. But we will take a gander at him for the next week and see. Mr. John Pryor requested Chad's bail to be set at $50,000. He was like, he's not a flight risk.
Oh, okay.
The judge came back and said, nope, $1 million. Prosecutor Rob Wood said, one of the primary reasons we are asking the bail to be set at that amount is these are human remains, and although those remains have not yet been positively identified, we are aware that these remains are the remains of children. The concealment of one of the bodies is particularly egregious, and should Mr. Daybell bail out, he has strong incentive to flee. Now, what did you gather from that, Jackie?
Egregious. I mean, I worry with the usage of egregious. It makes my mind and my imagination kind of run away from me.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Like, it's sad, it's sick, it's twisted. That's all I hear is that somebody did something horrible to Tylee's body. Because it was revealed that was Tylee, right?
Yeah, via our source. And then also, I believe that reporters have indicated that as well at this point.
Yeah, and I don't know. I like Tylee. Like, I don't know. I'm just sad. She doesn't deserve that.
No one deserves it. But apparently, a source on the scene, a law enforcement officer, basically indicated that Tylee, unlike JJ, quote, suffered.
Oh my God.
So that was devastating news of the day for me, for the family as well. And we will get into the family stuff, but just to put, because I have seen a lot of people discussing what the egregious aspect means, and for an example of that. So one of the most recent true crime cases was Mackenzie Lueck, and some of you may remember her. Her case happened in Salt Lake City. She was the missing Utah college student who just disappeared. She went to visit her parents. She got on an airplane to come home. She texted her parents around 2 a.m. on June 17th and then basically told them she made it back to Salt Lake City and she was all good. She grabbed a Lyft and then she went to go meet a man near a park. The Lyft driver later testified that she looked fine. So let's fast forward. Not going to go through. This isn't that show, that episode. However, they ended up locating the man who murdered her. In a kind of a chilling parallel to this case, investigators discovered a freshly dug site in his backyard when they executed the search warrant a week later. They located human bone, a scalp with hair, muscular tissue, and a cell phone. During the investigation, neighbors told cops that there was a horrible smell, and they witnessed him pouring gasoline on a fire pit.
Ooh.
So when they found her body was in fact charred. She was missing part of her scalp and had a 5-centimeter hole in her skull. So this is one of the more recent examples of legalese of using the word egregious.
So do you think speculation that it's possible that he burned her remains?
That's a great question. And as we have been sitting here recording, our beloved Justin Lum posted an interview with the CEO of Elite Medical Experts, who apparently said, quote, "If there's fire, thermal destruction of evidence, it's certainly going to complicate things at this point, depending on what occurred." So I don't know if there's a leak that fire was involved. I mean, again, Chad Daybell had many bonfires apparently over the last few months, but I'm kind of the camp of there's no use speculating until there's more information that has surfaced.
Yeah, absolutely.
But either way, that was absolutely heartbreaking. The term egregious is not used unless it is very, 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 very brutal.
It's really hard not to. Mm-hmm. It just makes it very difficult not to speculate when you hear very strong word choice being used, especially when it comes to something so important like the remains of
It's true. And we've been following this case too since February, and as I stated, if you haven't seen our statement on the case, you can read that on Instagram. We did release our statement. It's difficult, with everything that's come out. And, I think that people still held a small sliver of hope that Tylee and JJ were still alive. And then, in a matter of 24 hours, the concealment of one of the bodies is particularly egregious. So first thing that pops into my mind is likely dismemberment. Yeah. And then I see a lot of people speculating about the storage locker and the bin, the bin that they were seen carrying in and out multiple times.
Oh, for the storage unit?
Yeah, the storage unit. Sorry.
And the video that was captured showing them moving what looked like a car seat.
Well, the car seat was separate. They also brought in Rubbermaid bins in and out too. So I don't know. Again, that's just kind of pointless speculation.
So the Cox family had the family attorney, Robert P. Jarvis, released a statement. And interestingly enough, it happened the date, there was a date discrepancy. And apparently it was just a poor use of a template that pre-existed.
My God, they picked the crappiest law office.
Well, the paralegal who wrote it up should be probably frowned upon.
I don't even know if they have a paralegal.
I don't even know if that's even an office. Maybe it's someone's freaking basement. How can you overlook that? Has no one edited anything they sent out? Anyway, so everyone was wondering, everyone in the Patreon only group, I was even wondering, why is there a discrepancy in the date? Well, now we know. Poor proofreading and poor use of a template. Mm-hmm. And, it's almost it seemed cold and near emotionless with the statement from the law office. Mm-hmm. It stated that the family is very grateful for those who have expended so much time and effort in trying to locate them.
So the interesting part there is that the family, Janice and Summer, they haven't done anything. In fact, they've been just so condescending and terrible to anyone who says or has indicated that there's even anything wrong. Oh, Lori's fine. She'd never touch her children. This isn't weird. I trust her. Nothing's wrong. I talked to JJ. So don't forget that Janice Cox said in an interview with Morgan Lowe that she spoke to JJ on October 1st. And she said, "We love those kids. I talked to JJ in October. He knew who I was." And do you remember when she pulled out her bullshit phone bill? Like, almost as if we, the viewers, could determine exactly who she was talking to at that number. Because God forbid, no one else could answer a phone. That would be like me calling the White House to talk to a janitor and then being like, I talked to Trump that day. Here's my phone, call to the White House. Ridiculous. So like, I'm so upset at that family.
I wonder if that family had any involvement with the cult stuff either.
That's always been speculated. Barry Cox, like Lori, Janice's husband, Lori's father, is like a conspiracy theorist. He actually has a book on Amazon of how to single-handedly take down the IRS.
I've always tried. Every tax year, I'm taking down the IRS. Today is my day, and we're doing it.
Buy his shitty little book for $4.99, and maybe you too can learn. They're so shady and terrible, though. If anything, just they've been neglectful of giving a rat's ass about these children, if anything.
Sorry for all my speculation. I have a lot of questions, especially with all the new findings and stuff, and we don't have answers for a lot of things yet. So I'm like...
Do you feel that discovery of the remains has actually broken open way more questions than it actually resolved?
Absolutely. That's what always happens. It's kind of most murder cases. Sometimes it's open and shut, and I don't feel like that this is an open and closed case. I feel like that there's a lot of actors involved, and I think that it becomes a web of lies and a web of issues and a web of new evidence always pops up with one thing. It's a train wreck, and I can't look away.
I know. It's terrible. At this point, I'm just running on hatred and spite and hope that JJ and Tylee get like some semblance of justice that they deserve. So in other news, Annie Cushing released a statement as well. My heart truly does hurt for her. She has been working so hard with her blog and just her constant, presence on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. She's been pretty much everywhere, and I do truly believe and hope that she's going to continue her analysis and her timeline on her blog. Pretty much everyone made a statement in the last couple of days. Matt and Heather Daybell, Chad's brother and sister-in-law, released a very, very, very kind statement. The Woodcocks did issue a statement as well, and it was just absolutely devastating. It made me want to cry. They knew what was likely going to be the result of this, but seeing their statement on it just absolutely killed me, as well as seeing Larry in his interview as well. I wish them absolutely all the love in the world and hope that they have a huge support system, which I assume that they do. Again, Natalie Pawlowski.
Don't forget about Justin Lum. He posted something very interesting too.
Oh, he did. So Justin Lum posted a picture of Natalie Pawlowski. If you recall, that's Ian Pawlowski's ex-wife, the one who found cult documents supposedly on the computer that Ian gave her. And she immediately went to police. She was like, nope, I am not letting this happen. And she went to police. She tried to track down Brandon Boudreaux via coworkers, like LinkedIn, Facebook, the whole bit. She forced Ian, from what we've heard, to go to the police about it. So Natalie Pawlowski is a freaking rock star. So Justin Lum posted a picture on Twitter of Natalie and Kay Woodcock together. And Natalie has apparently been supporting Kay through a lot of this. So that was amazing to see. And Natalie, we've said it before, but girl, you are a badass.
Why is it that Natalie was the one with half a brain that decided to do the right thing?
I don't know if she just had her, quote, motherly instincts and protection kick in. I don't know, but she gave no cares in the world. She's like, my ex-husband just married into this psychotic family that, has all these weird beliefs and cults. And so she just starts finding people, tracking them down, going to law enforcement. She's amazing. So it was really awesome to see that she and Kay have forged some sort of relationship.
I'm glad to see that somebody used their brain. That's nice.
Out of everyone involved with all of this, Natalie has been our favorite since we heard about that. So I hope that she also finds peace in all of this, and she still has, the Ian and the children issue to deal with. So I hope that there's a peaceful and good resolve there.
So speaking of brains or no brains, let's talk about the release Lori Vallow Facebook page and how it's changed its name to Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell are possessed by Lucifer. Stacey Norton.
So if you guys recall, we already did a segment on Stacey Norton probably a month ago or so, and how he's this just really sad, mentally ill almost tent dweller, and he has become obsessed with Lori Vallow and just this entire thing. I mean, my heart goes out to him. He needs true psychological help. But he has been outed as the moderator, admin, creator of the Release Lori Vallow Facebook page. So apparently now that he should be eating crow over Lori and Chad being both now arrested and in jail, and he said that they would be vindicated, they're innocent, people need to stop. Well, apparently now it's still everyone's fault. So everyone who is anti-Lori and Chad, they're the ones at fault. They are filled with a devil, and his logic and reasoning is that they had some sort of evil power to see the future and see what had happened. Therefore, their demons somehow affected Lori and Chad. I don't know. I can't really understand that level of batshittery, but
Let me say this. Okay, I feel like every larger city, probably Florida, has a crazy guy who lives in a van.
that's not even a city.
No, Florida is a city of crazy.
Yeah.
And Florida it should just be called Florida. I mean, Orlando doesn't matter. It's Florida. But there is always a crazy guy who lives in a van stealing McDonald's Wi-Fi
Yeah.
who decides to create a Facebook page based on this craziness in their head. And it just kind of sounds that way. I'm not going to lie to you. He sounds a little mad.
He's very mad. And he has, go back and listen to the episode, guys. He is the admin of 40 different freaking Facebook groups, and he is so insane.
We will, when we send this out, we will tell them what episode to go to.
Yes.
Okay, it'll be in the text.
Yes.
You can read. I believe in all of you. You can read. You got this.
You got this. All right. So next, in legal document news, Mark Means, the attorney for Lori Vallow, is requesting records and documents in the Chad Daybell case, including the search warrant. And Means is not asking for the affidavit to be unsealed, but he just wants the records for his client.
Interesting.
Okay. So that's interesting.
As the
there.
plot thickens.
The plot thickens. And I mean, come on, guys. We all know that there are going to be additional charges for Lori. That it's only a matter of time.
Well, I mean, here's where it gets interesting, right? Is that now you have them separated. Mm-hmm. There's no way for them to communicate, even through mail or anything. Not saying that they did before, but see, Lori can completely play the innocent card until she can't. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a way out. If she just proves that he did it all, then she's scot-free, and that could be a problem.
We are going to go through all of this in our Patreon only afterthought. We will explain what that is at the end of this episode. Let's move on to today's news, June 11th, Thursday, June 11th. Chad's preliminary hearing has officially been set for July 1st and 2nd. He will appear in court again at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And again, he faces 2 counts of destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence. And basically, between now and then, it is possible that that additional charges could be added.
So Tammy Daybell's family released a statement, and it was incredibly heartfelt.
It was amazing. Her family, Tammy seemed so sweet, so genuine, and so loving of everyone. And her family seems the exact same way. They, basically acknowledge that they are heartbroken and they are devastated, and then they acknowledge the family and those who, are there for Tylee and JJ, and just basically that, they're, moving forward together, and they're broken and devastated. And it was really, really sweet.
And in final news, there's going to be a candlelight vigil tomorrow on June 12th at 8:30 p.m. in Idaho Falls. And it's going to be in the fields by Soda Tsunami.
Indeed. And so any of our Rexburg, Salem, any Idaho Falls people, please attend. We would love to see it. I would love to see pictures of it. It's so incredibly sad, and we are very invested in this case.
Absolutely. We've been around for many months. And we've gone through all the roller coasters of emotions.
And we would love to be there ourselves, but unfortunately, last minute travel from Portland is not possible. So that's it for today's episode, guys. There's a lot. I'm sure every day there's going to be a lot. Instead of the normal 1 episode a week, we are actually going to keep you informed as things happen. So prepare for more updated content as things happen with this case. So now we are going to turn it over to our Patreon afterthoughts. And what that is for our episodes, we try not to speculate as much as possible. You know, we obviously give our speculation, but we try to rely solely on verifiable facts. So we decided that in this case, we are going to turn it over to a kind of after show, only for our Patreon, and where we can let loose.
It's a more personalized version for our listeners.
And also, just like possums, late at night, we are taking our trash private.
Well, yeah.
No, we realize that our show is listened to by a wide demographic of listeners, and we love each and every one of you and appreciate your kindness and words of support and time. If you are interested, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/We Saw the Devil. We have an awesome, if I do say so myself, good job, Jackie, t-shirt design this week. And for as little as $3 a month, you can support us and support the show, most importantly, for as little as $3 a month and get cool stuff like swag, t-shirts, stickers,
books.
We sent our executive level books as a surprise this week. And also postcards from around the country, because every big case that we cover each month, we send them a special postcard from that city with a personalized note to each person.
There's going to be more surprises. If you're a Patreon, we're going to do our best to give you a lot of goodies, a lot of surprises, and we're going to try and interact with you more one-on-one now.
Mm-hmm. So that is it for tonight, guys. If you are a Patreon, please switch over to our Patreon feed. If you are not a Patreon, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to leave an iTunes review. We would really, really, really appreciate that. And don't forget, you can find us at We Saw the Devil Podcast on Instagram, We Saw the Devil on Twitter and Facebook, and our website is wesawthedevil.com. So that's it for this week, guys.
Until next crime.